Welcome. My name is Noman Shah, and welcome to your first introduction into Onshape. So before we actually get into the basics of Onshape, I think it's important to discuss what exactly is CAD, right? Like like you may have heard it, you may not have heard of what exactly it is. So CAD stands for computer aided design. And like the name suggests, it involves using computers to aid in the creation and development of a design. CAD is used to increase productivity, efficiency, accuracy, quality, and ease by which engineers can design solutions for problems. There are many different kinds of CAD softwares, but the one that we're going to be using for our purposes in PhysEng is called Onshape. There are many different applications of CAD. In my opinion, they're endless, but I wanted to highlight two. So the first one is 3D printing, which in my opinion is super cool. And basically, it involves you making a design, turning it into code for a 3D printer, and the 3D printer can just make it almost instantaneously. It's pretty fantastic. The second one is manufacturing. So many companies, before they can actually make a product, they'll require a 3D model in order to prototype and actually have a plan for their design. Now, with that being discussed, let's go into the basics of Onshape. So you can go ahead to cad.onshape.com/sign in, and you should have already made your account based on the last video. If not, go ahead and go back to that other video and make your account now, or just hit that sign up button and follow the directions. So we're going to go ahead and log into Onshape, and first thing you'll see is the document browser. We're not going to spend too much time here because we want to get into actually designing. But basically, this is where all of your designs are going to be organized, and you can go back and edit older designs and look at older designs, and it's very helpful. So we're going to go to create, and we're going to create a new document. For our purposes, you can name it whatever you need to. I'm going to name mine, however, PhysEng Onshape Lesson 1. This is your workspace in Onshape. I know. It looks very cool, doesn't it? So before we actually go into actually drawing anything, I think it's important to discuss what the layout is and how your workspace is organized. So at the top right here, this is called your ribbon. And the ribbon has every single tool you'll need to make your designs and your features of your parts in Onshape. Over here, this is your features window, and it has a list of every single feature that you're drawing. So whenever you add a new sketch, whenever you add a new 3D modeling, like an extrusion or a hole or a revolve, it'll show up here. And you can quickly look back and see the history of the part, and you can actually go back and make changes as well. It doesn't look super eventful right now, but as we go into drawing, I'll point it out a little bit more, and you'll see how it develops. And last but not least is the view cube over here. The view cube is very useful at times because let's say you need to adjust your view to a certain plane. Let's say you want to see it from the front, right? You can just click on front, it'll adjust itself. Let's say you want to go back to that view right here. You can also click right there, here, you can check the back. If you click here, it'll rotate to the other side. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Now, the final thing I need to talk about before we actually go into drawing are just the ways that you can control your view in Onshape. And these basically have to do mainly with your mouse and one keyboard item. So the first thing is right clicking. So if you hold right click, it'll actually rotate your view. So right click, hold, lets you rotate your view. Let's say you get lost and you're like, oh, I'm not exactly sure how I'm oriented. Just go back to the view cube, click on your corner, get yourself reoriented. There you go. The next one is the wheel press. So when you press down on the scroll wheel, it actually lets you pan. And this becomes evidently useful as you start drawing. When you use your scroll, it'll zoom in. So scroll in is zoom in, scroll out, scroll down is zoom out. And you can use these in tangent as well. And the last but not least view adjustment button that I want to point out is when you're making a sketch. So in many CAD softwares, when you make a sketch, it'll automatically reorient itself so that you're looking straight on into the sketch. Onshape doesn't do this, however. But at the same time, there is a very easy way to reorient yourself. So we're going to right click on the front plane, and I'm going to start a new sketch, right? So just right click, new sketch at the very top. Now I want myself to be looking straight into the sketch. As you can see right now, it's diagonal, right? I'm not looking straight on, so I can't draw properly. So how can I reorient myself as quickly as possible? Well, obviously, one thing that you can do is use a view cube, and that's fairly simple. But sometimes it's not So let's say you're drawing one over on the bottom, right? You want to look at it from the bottom. Then you have to click a few times and get to the bottom. And while that's not hard either, there's an easier way to do all of this, right? So let's say you have your sketch, you made it, you want to reorient yourself. All you have to do is press N. That's the N key. When you press the N key, it'll normalize to the plane that you're drawing on. So now that we have our first sketch made, let's start getting into the drawing. So there are a few drawing tools that we need to talk about specifically. There are many drawing tools. Let me just clarify. There are many drawing tools in Onshape, but for our purposes, I'm only going to be going through a few because this is just a basics video, not super comprehensive. If you would like to learn more about the other tools, I recommend you actually go in and explore on your own, because exploring on your own is sometimes the best way to learn CAD. So the first tool I want to talk to you all about is the line tool. So we're just going to click on it. It looks like here. It's right here. It's the first one. And basically, like I said, it just helps you draw a line, right? You can draw a line. You can continue. If you hit escape, it'll end it. So we're going to draw a line like that, right? It's the line tool. And you could, right? That's the line tool. The next one I want to talk about is the rectangular tool. There are many different forms of rectangles, but for our purposes, we're just going to be talking about the corner-to-corner rectangle. This one's also fairly straightforward. You just corner. You just left click on the corners and you can draw a rectangle. The last one is the circle. And basically you just select the center and then you just go out and make a radius. And there you have a circle. And those are the main drawing tools that we're going to be focusing on in this lesson. Like I said, there are many other drawing tools, but for our purposes, we're only going to be talking about these three. Now I'm going to be going into some of the more advanced drawing tools. Nothing like actually drawing, but it's basically just altering stuff that you've already drawn, right? So let's say you've drawn this circle, and now let's say you want another circle around it that's at the same center, right? So what you can do is you can use a tool called offset. It's right here. You click on the offset, you click on the specific shape that you want to offset. We're going to choose a circle, and we can offset by a specific point. And you just enter, and there you go. And you can also dimension. We're going to say 0.25, and there you go. You have an offset. And you can do this for many other designs as well. Let's say you have a line that you would like to offset. You can offset a line as well. A line that's exactly 0.25 inches away from this line. That's all you need. You can also select multiple lines in order to have a rectangle. You can offset the rectangle. Just like that. The second tool I'd like to talk to you about is the trim tool. So this allows you to clean up your designs very easily. So if you have a very rough sketch, you can clean it up. So right here, I've altered my design to make it perfect for this example. So you see how there's this little line that's sticking out here? I don't want that anymore. So I can just use the trim tool, and it'll automatically realize that, hey, there's a bit of a line that's just sticking out, and it'll automatically trim it for me using the trim tool. It's very useful at times. The last tool that I like to talk to you about is the mirror tool. So as you can see, there's been a slight change in the design. I've drawn kind of a weird structure here, but this is what I want to do. I want to have this entire area right here, this little line. I want it to continue and mirror right here. So I want it to be like this, but I want it to mirror across this axis. So how exactly do I go about doing that? So all I have to do is hit the mirror, select the line that's going to be mirroring off of. I'm going to choose this line here. I'm going to select all the entities that I want to be mirrored. And there you go. You have a complete shape that is the exact, it's going to be completely symmetrical, symmetrical across this line. The next set of tools are what I like to call constraining tools. And these allow you to adjust a sketch after you've drawn the rough outline. So basically you can go in and add finer detail. Let me show you what I mean by this. So the first one, then, this is going to be the most important tool you'll probably ever see in drawing, because you're going to have to use this for every single part that you ever make 100% of the time. And this is the dimension tool. And like the name suggests, it allows you to add dimensions to drawings, right? So right now this has no dimensions. We have no idea how long this is, how long that is, and what any of this means. It could really just mean anything, right? So we're going to add some dimension. We're going to add some meaning to it, okay? So we're going to make this 1.5 inches long, right? And doing so, you can actually add specific qualities and you can add finer details to make a part exactly how you want it to be. And that's one of the brilliant things about CAD is because you can never be too accurate in real life, but in CAD you can be 100% accurate 100% of the time. One interesting feature about this is, so if you select the line, you'll end up getting a length, but if you select two lines, you can actually dimension the angle as well. So I could change this to, let's say 110 degrees, and it'll adjust accordingly. Another tool that's important is the parallel tool, and what this will do is it'll allow lines to be set parallel to each other. Let me show you how this works. So we're going to hit the parallel tool, we're going to select this line and this line, and now, as you can see, they're both parallel. Pretty cool. Another one is the horizontal tool, right here, and basically it'll set it horizontal to whatever plane you're actually viewing it on. Something like this, horizontal. And because we had already had that constraint of making them parallel, the other one will be adjusted accordingly as well. Likewise, we also have a vertical tool. I'm going to go ahead and delete this angle just to show you what the vertical tool looks like. So the vertical tool is much like the horizontal tool, and it'll take whatever line you have and make it vertical according to the plane that you're drawing it on. So let's say we click this line here, and boom, it's perfectly vertical. And those are all of the tools that you will be needing for this lesson. Like I've said multiple times before, there are many, many, many other tools that are also very useful, but for our purposes right now, those are the only tools you're going to need. And now we are ready to actually start going into 3D modeling tools. So I've just drawn up a little very quick sketch, just a little rectangle and two lines in order to make a trapezoid. And now we're going to go into the 3D modeling tool. So we're going to hit the green check mark. We're done with our sketch. We are ready to turn this from something that's 2D into something that's 3D. So the first tool that we're going to talk about is the extrude tool. And what it allows you to do is to basically just add an extra dimension to this 2D shape right now. So right now we have this and this, but we're going to be pushing it, right? We're going to be pushing the design into a new dimension. So we're going to extrude. We're going to select the faces that we want to extrude. That way we have this. We can change the depth, and we can also change the direction as well. So one of the things that you can do that I think is really cool is you can change it to symmetric. That way it's going to be extruding from both sides of your sketch. But we're going to stick for blind for now. It just basically extrudes from one side of the sketch. And let's go for a depth of 2 inches. And you hit enter, and there you go, a trapezoidal prism. And that's the extrude tool. So now I'm going to go into my features window, and as you can see, we have our sketch here and our extrude, right? And we're going to go and we're going to delete the extrude. We still have our sketch left because I want to show you guys one more 3D modeling tool that I think is super, super cool. And that's the revolve tool. And what the revolve tool allows you to do, it lets you revolve a sketch around a certain axis. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna select this little triangle here. That's what we want to revolve, right? Then we go over here, we click on the axis that we want to. So basically we're gonna be selecting our axis now, and let's revolve it around this line. So as you can see, we basically just made like a soccer cone. So quite literally what we've done is we've taken our sketch of this triangle right here, and this is the center point, and we're just revolving around that center point. And this is very cool for when you need, and quick for when you need to make things that are symmetrical but also circular as well. That way you just have to draw one cross section, and then you can have the entire design ready. And that is the extrude and revolve tool. Those are only 2 of the 3D modeling tools that you can see here. As you can see, there are many, but these are the only 2 that we're going to be discussing in this lesson: the extrude and revolve tool. So now that we've learned the basics of drawing lines, rectangles, circles, and how to use trim, offset, and mirror, as well as constraining tools like dimension, parallel, horizontal, and vertical, and we use those to make our 2D sketches, and we've also learned how to make our 3D sketches using the extrusion tool and the revolve tool. So now that we have all of these in our arsenal, we're going to go through a practice problem. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So what exactly are you looking at right now? I understand it might be a little bit complicated first, but basically we need to design a part that has this outline here with the given dimensions. Let me zoom out a little bit more so it's a little bit easier to see. There you go. So we just need to design a part that looks like that and has a hole in the middle. So let me walk you through the way I go about designing one of these. So from a drawing, how do we make it into an actual 3D model? So first things first, I always like to just get the rough outline down, right? What is the rough outline? Let's just draw this shape very quickly. So we look at this. Okay, let's go back to our window. We're going to start a new sketch. So right click on the plane, new sketch. And let's look back. Okay, let's just draw a very, very rough outline of that, right? So we have this, like this, goes like that. Let's go back. It goes down a little. Then it goes in, goes like that. What do you guys think? That looks pretty close, right? Like it's a very, very rough outline. You just want to get the general shape down. Don't worry too much about the dimensions at first. Just worry about getting the shape down, right? So we have the shape. Now that we have our shape, we can start working on those finer details, like the dimensioning. So we use our dimension tool now. And let's just go through and add every dimension that we see. So the top line, that's 1 inch. So we're going to go ahead and make that 1 inch. This one over here, is 0.75 inches. So we're going to go this like this. 0.75. Check back. The total height of the thing is 2. So we're going to go ahead and add that dimension in. 2. The height of the bottom piece is like right here is 1.5. The total length of the thing is 3, so we're going to go here. This is 0.75. This is 0.25. And there you go. I think we're done. I think we dimensioned everything we could. Obviously, we have this hole in the middle. We'll get to that. For now, we're just getting the rough outline of the shape. I think if I'm correct, we are done. Well, that's great news. Okay, so now let's go back to our design. It says plate thickness is 0.25. So remember that. Okay, so now that we're done with our sketch, we're gonna hit the green check mark. Now we need to turn this into a 3D figure. So we're gonna use extrude tool. We're gonna select it. Now what's the thickness? Like we just looked at, it was 0.25 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and change this to 0.25. Hit the green check mark, and there you go. That's our rough outline. Now all we have left is a hole. All right, now how do we do that? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and select this, right click on the face, right? So basically we're gonna be adding a hole in, right? So right click on the face, draw a new sketch. So now you're gonna be drawing directly on the face of the part. Remember, don't forget to hit N, that way it normalizes. Now we're just gonna draw a circle. Just like that, right? It doesn't matter anyway. Again, this is a rough sketch, right? So we know that it's 1 inch away from the bottom. So the center is 1 inch away from the bottom. The center is 1 inch away from the right side. And we know that the diameter, the diameter is 1 inch. Okay, we can do this. So now we take our dimension tool. First thing, let's get this to 1 inch. So 1 inch, perfect. And now we're gonna dimension this from the side. And this has to be 1 inch. Now we do it from the bottom, and that's supposed to be 1 inch. And there you go. Our hole has been placed, and it's perfectly dimensioned. So now all we have to do is just extrude it. So one of the coolest things about extrude is not only can it add material, it can also remove material as well. And this is called cutting. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this. And as you can see, it automatically starts extruding out, right? But here's what we want to do. We want to remove. So go ahead and click remove. Change it from add to remove. And as you can see, it has now cut a hole out through the center of the plate. And now, obviously, if we wanted to, we could be more specific and say 0.25 because we know that's the thickness of the plate. But for our purposes, because we just want a hole all the way through, we can just say whatever dimension we want. And there you go. That is the 3D version of this. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Let's do one more practice, okay? So we're going to go into our second design. So this one's a little bit more complicated, but I promise you, you can do this with what you've learned. So this looks crazy, right? How are you going to be able to design something as complicated as this? Well, just take a deep breath in, deep breath out, relax. First thing you want to do, remember, make that rough outline, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to draw this side of it, right? Let's just focus on drawing this like face right here. And we're just gonna draw the rough outline of it, right? So it goes, so we're gonna start a new sketch, hit N, that way it's normalized. And we're gonna look back, okay, so we have a box, and then we have 3 lines here, and then it goes down like that. Okay, we can draw this. We're just gonna do this. One, 2, 3, and then it goes down like this. Just like that. That's a pretty rough outline of it, would you say? Exactly. Yeah, I think it's pretty close. Now, we'll focus on dimensioning. So as you can see from the top here, so the entire height of this plane is 2 inches. So we're going to go ahead and hit the dimension tool, hit this, select those 2 points. We have 2 inches. Now we know that this right here is 0.5 inches. So the height of this, using logic, is 2 minus 0.5. So it has to be 1.5. So we can select this, make this 1.5. Now we know this entire bottom, this entire length is 3.62. Just like that, make it 3.62. There you go. We know the entirety of this top section from this to this is 1.63, as you can see right there. We're gonna go ahead and do that. So here to here is 1.63. And we also know that this section right here is 0.75. Let's go ahead and add that one as well. So we select this line, 0.75. There you go. Now, this is one of the angles, right? So we know that this is what? What is that? 60? 60? Or is it? I think it's 60. Let's go with 60. If it's not 60, it might be 40. I think it's 60 though. Let's try 60. That looks pretty right. I think it is 60. Yeah, so 60 degrees goes up. And then we have a 30 degree from the horizontal over here. So let's draw that in as well. And this is 30. And as you can see, I just use the already given markers for vertical and horizontal. That way I don't have to draw anything else. And I think that should be our fully sketched out plane, if I'm not mistaken. Alrighty, now that we have fully finished sketching our first rough plane, let's start extruding it, right? So we're done with that sketch. We're going to go into a separate view. We're going to start extruding it. So what is the length? We have 1.25. So that's how far we have to extrude it in order to get our first 3D shape. So we're going to select the face. What is it again? 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. And there you go. Just like that. And now we see we're almost done. All we have are 2 more features that we need to add. Let's see if we can figure those out, right? So first one, let's add the hole. The hole seems pretty prominent. Let's add the hole. So just like last time, we're gonna go ahead and right click on the face that we want to add the hole onto. So we're gonna add a new sketch on this face, just like that. And we're just gonna draw a circle, right? Just a circle, somewhere right here. We don't know yet. It's a rough outline. It doesn't matter. We'll add dimensions now, right? We know it's the center is 1.5 inches away from the left side and 1 inch away from the bottom. So let's go ahead and add those dimensions in. So 1.5 and 1. And now we also need to make sure the size is right. So the diameter here is written as 0.75. So let's go ahead and dimension the circle to be 0.75 as well. There you go, perfect. And now we're done with that sketch. And just like last time, we're going to use the extrude tool not to add material, but to cut. So we're going to select the circle, hit remove, and we're just gonna drag the arrow so it goes all the way through. That way we get the hole on both sides, as you can see. Because in the model, we have a hole going all the way through. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So there you go. Now we have one thing left that we got to do. We have to clean out the inside, right? How are we going to do that, you might ask? Well, there are a few ways to do so. The way I'm going to do it is by drawing a sketch on the top face of this object and extruding downwards. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So first thing we're going to do is going to right click on the top face, going to hit new sketch. We're going to align ourselves using the N key, right? We're going to draw a rectangle, right? Because as you can see, according to this, it's just a rectangle, right? They just cut out a rectangle about, right? We're just going to draw a rectangle. Doesn't have to be dimensioned yet, right? We're just going to do that for now. Let's add some dimensions now, right? So we know that it's 0.25 basically around the entire thing. That's the thickness, right? So let's try to keep that consistent. So we hit dimension, this line here, this line there, and we're going to make that 0.25. Now we also need to make sure it's on this side as well. 0.25. Make sure it's on this side as well. 0.25. And on this side, as you can see, it goes all the way through. There's no actual material. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make this 0. Right? And now all we have to do is basically just cut our way down until it's 1.25 from the bottom as well. As you can see, it's 1.25 thickness on the bottom as well. So we know the full height is 2 inches. And if we want 0.25 thickness on the bottom, how far do we have to extrude? Well, doing some quick math, that's just 2 minus 0.25. So we need to extrude downwards 1.75 inches. So we're going to hit the extrude tool. We're going to select our rectangles. And we're going to go to remove. And we're going to go to 1.75 inches of depth. And as you can see, we have cleared out the entire thing. And the shape should be just like this one. So for the second time, we have taken a 2D picture with dimensions and turned it into an actual usable 3D model. Alrighty, now that we finished our second part, we're going to go into another feature of Onshape, and this is the drawing, right? We're going to be creating a drawing, an engineering sketch, right? You're saying, Naman, we've been sketching this entire time. What is this new thing, right? Allow me to explain. So an engineering sketch or an engineering drawing basically is like a blueprint for a part, and it allows somebody else to make the exact same model using just that 2D view and the 2D paper in the drawing, right? Let's go into it. So at the bottom left corner, it says insert new element. There's a little plus sign. Go ahead and click that and hit create drawing. And we're just going to use the default settings. So go ahead and hit OK. And this is going to be the blank sheet that we're working on, right? So as you see, immediately what pops up is you can select your part and place it on, right? So we're going to go ahead and select the part that we want to put into a drawing. And there it is. That's the side, that's the front view right there. And it looks a little small, don't you think? So let's go ahead and change the scale. So all you need to do to change the scale is go up to right here where it says view scale. Go ahead and click in the typing box, and we're going to change it from 1 to 1 to 2. We're going to change it from 1 to 2 to 1 to 1. And that should hopefully make things a little bit better looking, right? I think that better utilizes the space given on the paper. So we're going to go ahead and place that. And once you place one of the sides, you can also extend, and now as you see, this is the top view, right? And if we go back and select it again, we can also get the side view. And if we select it one more time, we can get the isometric view. And those are basically the four views you will always want to have. Go ahead and hit escape, and that way you're free from you're allowed to click on anything you need to. Right? And these are the four views that you're going to need to have basically for any single engineering drawing that you produce via Onshape. So make sure that you place these four views properly. That way there's enough space between each of them and it just looks organized, right? You don't want it to be a mess. You want it to be very easy to read. Now the next part of drawing, and this is probably the most tedious part of this, is dimensioning, right? But you want to make sure you dimension it properly, right? It's important but tedious, right? So just make sure when you're doing it, you do it properly, right? So how does dimensioning work, right? So you just want to make sure that you add every dimension that you need to recreate this, right? So let's say you were going to be using this exact drawing to recreate this part. What dimensions do you need written down in order to make sure that it's recreatable, right? That's basically like the set of rules that you want to operate by. If you're noticing like, hey, I couldn't remake this because I don't have all the dimensions, then you haven't added enough dimensions yet. A good way to go about this is to look back at the design, see what dimensions they've added. But I personally just like to make sure that as long as I can draw it myself again, using the drawing itself, then it is good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and just add the dimensions. We're going to dimension the bottom right here, 3.62. We're going to add this height over here, just like this. We're going to dimension the angles like we had to use right here, 60. And this right here. Sorry about that. We wanted to have it so that this angle was 150. 150, right? We'll make sure we have this length. 175. This one. And let me move this away a little bit, that way it's a little bit easier to read. And that should be all that we need for the outer sketch. Now we just need the circle, right? There you go. And now we need one other thing. We need the overall thickness, like we were utilizing before, just like that. 2.25 on both sides. We're gonna move this over to the side, that way it's easier to read. And there we go. So if I'm looking at this properly, it should be all the dimensions that we need for this to succeed. Let me look back onto our design. Ah, there's one more that we were almost forgot, and that is the overall length, the depth. See, that's why it's always important to make sure that you're checking properly, because it's very easy to forget a dimension. Now, this should be all the dimensions that we need for someone else to look at this and say, I can recreate this figure. And there you go. You are done with your drawing. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching through the lesson. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can ask your PhysEng teachers or you can email me. With that being said, I have a few more practice assignments that you guys can feel free to just pause the video and just look through them and go through them if you'd like. Here's the first one. Feel free to just pause and use this one if you'd like. So you could go ahead and use those practices if you'd like. So here's some info about the next session. The next video will be about assemblies, which involve taking multiple parts and putting them all together under some more constraints. Thank you for watching.